Hey, financial analysis. We have a chapter 15 test due on Friday, so I'm going to walk you through some of the concepts again, and of course, reference your textbook for example problems. Lesson 15 we started with markup, and it was really important to know all these vocab terms. Let's go through them. Of course, cost is the actual amount paid for a product. It includes lots of charges that the store incurs. Selling price is what the product sells for in the store. Notice we used retail price as a term as well. Markup is the difference between the cost of the product and the selling price of the product. So that's what the store adds to the price in order to make a profit, which is our next term, gross profit, difference between the costs. And notice they also say that's known as the markup, which is the title of the section. Net profit is any money left over, deducted, called the net income. So all these vocab terms are really important for the entire chapter. So it's really important that you know the difference between them. The first section, though, we simply subtracted the selling price from the cost to get the markup. And again, that's the money that the store makes and pockets. 15.2 is on markup rate. Whenever we're calculating a rate, it's a percent of a selling price. And remember, rates are always division problems. So markup divided by selling price times 100 is your percent rate for markup. In 15.3, we talked about net profit. Operating expenses go into that. Here we go. Also known as overhead. So you'll notice in the next slide they call it overhead. It's the cost of running a business. So overhead is a percent of your selling price. And so you have to think about the fact that running a business does cost money in certain ways. Your net profit, then, you take your markup and subtract the overhead because that's finally the money that you make at the end of the day. 15.4, net profit rate. So again, a rate, we are going to divide. It's a percent of the selling price. So with your net profit rate, it's net profit over selling price. Notice in these formulas where you divide net profit rate, always then net profit goes on the top. So whenever you're calculating a rate, remember that value right there goes on the top of your fraction, and that holds throughout this chapter. 15.5 was kind of weird, so I skipped it, and we moved on to 15.6, markup rate based on cost. In this section, again, we are dividing. So see how the markup goes on top, which is what was true for 15.4 as well. Selling price, make markup rate based on cost. The difference between this section and the other sections is that suddenly we're finding the markup is the cost percent of a markup rate, which is kind of going backwards from the other section. And you can calculate the selling price by adding the cost and the markup together. So a couple terms to finish up this section here. Markdown, of course, is a discount. And a markdown rate, we're going to divide again because it's another rate problem. It's the percent of the regular selling price. So as we look at these formulas, you subtract to find markdown and you divide to find the markdown rate. Notice again, markdown rate, markdown is going to go on the top over your selling price.